Antarctica, a continent that has captured our imagination for centuries, this land of extremes is famous for keeping its secrets. A British team of scientists has unraveled a new one.
From UFOs to possible alien abductions, we're fascinated by the idea of extraterrestrial life. Now, scientists have found the strongest evidence yet.
Something monstrous sleeps beneath the ice, buried deep under a frozen wasteland where sunlight dies and silence reigns. Antarctica. A land so vast, so cruel, it swallows time and swallows truth. It's larger than Europe, colder than death, and more isolated than any prison on Earth. The perfect vault for a secret not just unimaginable, but lethal. One that could fracture everything humanity knows in a single breath. January 2015.
To look at a part of the planet we have never seen before. In January,
a name surfaces from the shadows. Brian, a retired US Naval flight engineer. He broke his silence not for fame, not for clicks, but because the truth clawed at his conscience until he couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe. This wasn't the story of a wild-eyed theorist. Brian's past was ironclad, his credentials pristine. Over 10 years of service in one of the most classified units on the planet, the Antarctic Development Squadron 6, VXE-6. He flew countless missions across Antarctica's dead heart into skies few men ever dared cross. The official records, the medals, the security clearances, everything about Brian screamed discipline and loyalty, and yet, what he revealed would leave even the boldest shaken. Because there was one mission, one flight that never left his mind. One memory he couldn't erase no matter how hard he tried. Something he saw out there. Something that refused to fade with time. A hidden truth buried beneath that ancient ice.
In tonight's In-Depth takes us under the ice where scientists discovered a new world.
Pulsing like a ticking bomb, just waiting to wake. It was a normal day when the wind tore across the white expanse like a living thing, angry and persistent. That morning had started with the mundane, a routine resupply mission from McMurdo Station, nothing out of the ordinary. Until the call came through. Unmarked, encrypted, and short. Reroute immediately to a grid location that didn't appear on any map. Coordinates buried in Antarctica's frozen heart, a place without name or history. The crew obeyed. Orders were orders, and questioning them wasn't an option at that altitude. The pilot, Brian, had felt a strange tension clawing at his spine the moment their heading changed. Not fear, not yet. Just a whisper of something wrong. Hours passed in white silence until the destination emerged through the frost-laced windows. Below them, a chaotic sprawl of a research camp. Tents flung apart like toys, equipment reduced to heaps of scrap, footprints vanishing into nothing. Not a single soul. In sight. It didn't look like an accident or attack. It looked erased, as if the place had been swallowed whole by something that didn't want to be found. Then Brian saw it. A gaping, perfectly circular hole lay in the ice just beyond the wreckage, thousands of feet wide, smooth beyond belief, not chipped or cracked like something natural. It was immaculate, impossible. Light pulsed faintly from within, a steady, rhythmic glow that breathed like a heartbeat. Blue, but not the blue of ice or sky. It shimmered in a way that made Brian's head hurt, as if his eyes weren't meant to perceive it. They circled it once. That was all it took for everything to fall apart. The aircraft's systems began to fail, one by one. Radar blinked to static, navigation spun in loops, the controls jammed unresponsive. Warnings blared through the cockpit as the lights dimmed, and for a moment they were weightless, drifting toward the abyss below like marionettes cut from their strings. Only emergency backups saved them. A manual override, a burst of fuel, and a near-suicidal pull upward. As they tore away from the hole, Brian saw something move inside. Dark, large, indistinct. Not a shadow, but something casting it. He didn't tell the crew. Back at McMurdo, he transmitted a coded emergency report. No exaggeration, no speculation, just coordinates and facts. He thought he was doing the right thing. He believed someone needed to know. What came next erased any doubt that the anomaly wasn't just a natural wonder. Within hours, a convoy of black-clad personnel arrived, bearing no insignias. Their aircraft bore no numbers. Their weapons were visible, but their eyes were hidden. DARPA, they said, though not officially, not openly, just a whisper of authority and a threat wrapped in a smile. "You saw something you shouldn't have," one of them told Brian flatly. "Say another word and you disappear." The camp was wiped clean by morning. Equipment was loaded into massive cargo planes, every trace of the research team erased like chalk from a blackboard. Brian was confined to base under constant watch. His crew was split up, reassigned, and silenced. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. In the months that followed, strange patterns began to emerge. Entire research stations abandoned overnight. Communications with isolated teams lost permanently. Radio? Signals in no known language echoed through the cold night from beneath the ice shelf. Brian began collecting them. At first it was just curiosity, then it turned into obsession. He mapped the disappearances, tracked the coded messages, and found himself staring at a web that all led back to that hole. Always that hole. Governments, meanwhile, scrambled to control narratives. News outlets spun tales of budget cuts and relocations. But Brian saw through the facade. Something was stirring under the frozen wasteland, something no nation wanted to admit existed.
So a new discovery in Antarctica. Researchers find new life under an ice shelf.
Then March 2025 arrived. A spark ignited the globe. New US tariffs on steel and aluminum. Retaliation from Canada.
U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to increase tariffs on Canada.
Countermeasures from the EU. A chain reaction of economic collapse began. Markets stuttered, alliances cracked. But beneath the political noise, another pattern emerged. Resources were being rerouted toward Antarctica. Not food or medicine, but equipment. Advanced tech, surveillance, weapons. Brian wasn't alone in noticing. Discreet online forums began whispering about a Project Eclipse. Posts would appear and vanish within minutes, IP addresses traced to remote outposts or private military contractors. Someone out there knew the truth, and they were silencing anyone who got too close. One night, Brian received a package. No return address. Inside, a flash drive containing grainy footage. An aerial scan of the ice hole. Only this time, the light inside wasn't pulsing, it was flaring. Something had changed. He watched the footage over and over. At one point, a figure appeared on the edge of the hole, small, human-shaped, but not right. Limbs too long, movements too smooth, and then it dropped, vanishing into the light. He tried to alert former colleagues, most had gone silent. One responded cryptically, "They're not letting us leave, the noise is getting louder." Brian didn't sleep after that. There was one more thing that disturbed him deeply. A message embedded in the radio signals he'd been tracking, buried in the static, translated with help from a linguist friend who'd later gone missing. It read, "Beneath sleeps the first of us." What did that mean? The timeline didn't make sense anymore. His experience, the escalating economic chaos, the blackout zones, none of it fit neatly. But Brian knew what he'd seen. That hole wasn't made by ice, or time, or man. It had always been there, waiting. And now the silence was starting to break. Rumors swelled about tremors in the region, about melting despite sub-zero temperatures, strange readings from satellites, a surge in geothermal activity no one could explain. Some said the ice itself was thinning unnaturally, shaped by something from below, pushing upward.
A powerful ocean current crucial to our global climate is slowing down, and scientists are pointing to melting ice sheets as the cause.
Then, last night, Brian received another file. Just audio, crackling at first, then a deep, low sound, not mechanical, not weather, something breathing. And then, from the depths of that recording, scratching, like claws or hands, and a slow rhythmic knocking against ice, not from above, but from something trying to come up. Then the last few seconds of the audio, a garbled voice whispering in a language Brian had never heard, but somehow understood, a message not meant for ears but for something deeper, something beyond reason, something ancient. Now scientists are disappearing faster. Camps are burning without explanation, satellites are glitching, going blind when they pass over the same location, the exact coordinates Brian first flew over all those months ago. And tonight, from that same region, new sounds have begun radiating across open frequencies. Long, drawn-out echoes of groans and grinding ice, punctuated by something far more chilling, strange noises from beneath the ice. The cold didn't just freeze the bones, it froze time. In 1987, something strange and silent sliced through the skies above a forgotten patch of ice near Wilkes Land. That day, Brian's routine surveillance flight should have ended like any other, with coffee-stained reports and dull chatter. Instead, it was the beginning of a haunting truth that refused to die. His co-pilot was the first to notice it. Something too smooth, too flawless to be man-made. Suspended against the clouds like a whisper of metal, the oval-shaped craft moved without sound, without wings, without logic. It danced through the air with elegance that defied science, ignoring gravity like a game. Then it vanished, fading into nothing as if it had never been there. Brian tried to speak. His hands trembled on the controls. But before he could report what they saw, orders came from above, brutal and swift. Silence, total and enforced. He was warned, lose your job, your freedom, maybe even your life. The threat was clear. Forget what you saw. But how do you erase the impossible? Years later, a signal broke through the static. Faint, almost apologetic, it drew him back to that cursed sky. Brian followed it, pulled by a feeling he couldn't name. The same hollow of ice, the same eerie glow poured from a hole in the earth like a wound that never healed. Then, as before, the systems failed. His aircraft lights blinked out. His instruments spun wildly. Power gone, control lost. They didn't want him near it, not again. Far above, classified satellite images picked up something beneath the ice. Heat, rising from deep within Wilkes Land. Temporary structures, flickering outlines of shapes not meant to exist, the kind of evidence that never reaches the public, the kind that burns holes in government files and minds alike. Linda Moulton-Howe, a tenacious journalist with a knack for digging too deep,
to investigative journalist Linda Moulton-Howe to tell her story.
Heard about Brian's hidden encounter. She tracked down whispers, old testimonies, and confidential statements from retired officers who still flinched at shadows. Stories matched, descriptions aligned. The same oval crafts, the same shutdowns, always near Antarctica. By now, something else had started brewing. Global headlines screamed about tariffs, trade wars, and crumbling alliances. But behind the chaos of currency and steel, an older, colder truth churned, one kept buried under treaties and ice sheets. Antarctica, the land no one owns, suddenly became very interesting. Beneath its frozen armor lies the planet's greatest treasure trove: gold, oil, coal, even platinum. Untouched, untapped, guarded not by soldiers, but by paper promises. And paper, everyone knows, burns easily. Russia announced oil reserves found in British-claimed Antarctic zones. Over 500 billion barrels, they said. China, never one to blink, expanded its Antarctic operations overnight. New infrastructure, more scientific outposts, cameras, drills, silence. Their official statements spoke of research and climate studies. But the positioning was too perfect, the timing too sharp, and what of the United States? Tariffs on steel and aluminum looked like economic retaliation, but what if they were a distraction? What if the real war wasn't on trade routes, but beneath the ice? These maneuvers weren't random. This was a chessboard made of snow and secrets. Each move disguised as progress, each bias pretending to be science. But behind it all, greed, hunger, maybe fear of what lay beneath. The past had whispered warnings, but no one listened. In 1947, Admiral Richard Byrd returned from a mission called Operation High Jump, visibly shaken.
In 1940, just 3 miles into the Ross Ice Shelf, an American crew is building Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd's 3rd Antarctic base.
Officially, it was a training exercise, a massive one. 47,000 men, 70 ships, and 33 aircraft. They were to test equipment and build a base, but Byrd said otherwise. He spoke, briefly, of flying beyond the poles, of finding a world no map showed, a realm beneath the ice. He said he encountered beings, advanced ones, pilots of disc-shaped machines marked with strange symbols. His instruments failed too. They always do near the hole. According to a hidden diary, if it truly existed, Byrd was taken into this realm, shown a city and warned. A figure, calling himself the Master, spoke of Earth's atomic obsession, a plea for peace, delivered to a man who would be ignored. Soon after, Byrd's tale was discredited, the documents were buried, but some remembered, and some kept digging. Now, those stories crawl back into the light. They align with Brian's account, with the heat under Wilkes Land, with the military's reluctance to let anyone close to. Many parallels. Too much fear. What if the world leaders already know? What if the treaties, the tariffs, the sudden Antarctic rush? It's all part of something bigger. A hidden war for what lies beneath. Not just resources, but power, knowledge, technology that didn't come from us. The disc-shaped crafts aren't new. Reports date back decades. Silent, fast, capable of movements our best jets can't mimic. They never crash, they vanish. And those who speak, well, they disappear too. Brian almost did. After the second encounter, he vanished from public life. No interviews, no photos, just a shadow fading from the world. But Linda found him, or what remained, a voice, paranoid, afraid, but clear. He spoke of lights, of a hum that felt like it came from inside your bones, of being watched, even now, of dreams that felt real. The governments don't deny the presence in Antarctica. They just never speak of it. They let silence explain everything, and the silence is loud. There's more. In the late 40s, several German U-boats were rumored to have vanished near the South Pole. Post-war documents hinted at Nazi escape routes into the icy continent. Some even claimed entire convoys headed south with unknown cargo. Wild theories linked these events to advanced craft sightings. But who would believe such madness, unless it wasn't madness at all? There are photos, though most are grainy, showing what appear to be structures under the ice. Dome-like shapes, artificial lines in the snow where no human should have stepped. Heat signatures that suggest ongoing activity, but from whom? Or, those who try to speak find themselves discredited or forgotten, names erased, evidence lost, but every now and then a piece slips through. A radio signal, a satellite flash, a scared pilot's final transmission. If this was only about money, if it was just oil or gas, why the secrecy? Why the forceful silencing? Why the fear? It doesn't end with Brian or Byrd or even the Cold War. Something ancient sleeps beneath Antarctica. Something protected. Something hidden. Maybe it's watching. Maybe it doesn't want to be found. Or maybe it's waiting for the right time to rise. The air around Wilkesland feels heavier. Explorers report strange compass shifts. Instruments die. Drones lose control. Teams vanish. And still, the world looks away. Ice is not meant for sunlight, and those who have seen it, they either go silent or they never come back. The stories were too far apart in time to be coincidence. Decades stretched between Admiral Byrd's alleged encounter and Brian's terrifying descent into silence. Yet the echoes of their experiences hum the same tune. Strange crafts with no wings, sudden system failures, cold warnings to never speak again. The thread connecting them coils deeper than anyone dares to trace. They both saw something not meant for human eyes, and both were swiftly erased from the pages of official history. Brian's aircraft had hovered near a glowing hollow that pulsed like a heartbeat in the frozen earth. His instruments failed, his radios died, but the hum in his skull grew louder. The shapes he saw near the edge of the ice, too fluid, too perfect, were not from this world. Later he tried to speak, but the silence around him thickened, woven with fear and unseen eyes. Admiral Byrd, decades before, had charted a course into the heart of the unknown. His reports spoke of advanced beings, warnings about Earth's self-destruction, and the plea to carry a message back to those in power. But that message was buried, just like Brian's account, just like the truth. Whispers began resurfacing. Maps showed heat under the ice where nothing should breathe. Elon Musk, seemingly removed from such tales, made cryptic remarks about the future of resources and frontiers. Mars? The moon? No, Antarctica. He knew the real battleground wasn't up there, it was beneath us. He warned of economic collapse, of a shift. A storm is building under the surface of everything. Could it be that the glowing fissure Brian found was not just a physical wound in the earth, but a crack in reality? Was it a gate to forgotten knowledge, or a force too dangerous to unleash? The deeper we dig, the more the foundations of our world begin to shake. Those who listen closely can hear the whispers in the ice. The world's powers circle Antarctica not for peace or science, but for control and maybe protection. Protection from something awakening. Brian's tale might have faded into silence, but the ice remembers. The hole still glows, and the truth, colder than death, still waits. Buried, but not gone. Not yet. Subscribe now and turn on the notification bell to follow our journey into the chilling secrets Brian dared to expose. What lies beneath the Antarctic ice might be far more dangerous than we ever imagined. He risked everything to bring this mystery to light, and now it's your turn to dive deeper. Share your thoughts and theories in the comments and stay with us, because the truth isn't just buried, it's getting closer, and its reveal may change everything we thought we knew.